One Claudebot power user burned $3,600 in a single month, while Claude Code's hardest ceiling is $200. That gap can wreck your budget before you even see it coming. AI coding agents are moving fast right now, so I'm putting Claude Code and Clawdbot through 5 head-to-head tests to see who actually wins. And the cost test alone won't settle this, because the deployment test near the end could flip which one you actually want to pay for. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. And every figure in this video is traced back to official docs or pricing pages both companies actually publish. This one's for developers and solo builders deciding where to put their monthly tool budget on a real coding workload. Test 1. Cost. I want to be upfront about what this test is actually checking, because the entry price is not the number that'll hurt you. Clawdbot is free software, MIT license, $0 to download. But the API bill underneath it has no ceiling, and one heavy month can run you into the thousands before you even realize what happened. I looked at what both tools actually charge across their user base. Claude Code runs $17 to $20 a month on Pro, $200 on Max 20 CUCs, and that $200 is a hard cap. Claudebot's software is free, but community reports put API spend somewhere between $10 and $150 a month for typical users, and one power user hit $3,600 on 180 million tokens. That last number is community reported, so I'd take it with a grain of salt, but it's real. Clawdbot takes cost, and it's pretty simple. 0 license fee beats $17 a month on entry. The API wildcard doesn't cancel that out for light users. The monthly spend stays well below Claude Code's floor, so Clawdbot gets on the board first, 1 to 0. Test 2. Coding benchmark performance. A lot of people skip over this number, but 84% is Claude Code's pass rate on SWE Bench Pro with Opus 5.0 across 50 real eval cases. And if you ship a coding agent that can't clear a published benchmark, your users find out the hard way, when the bug it missed cost you a weekend of rollback work. What surprised me here was how one-sided this turned out. Claude Code with Opus 5.0 hits 84% on 50 SWE Bench Pro cases and holds at 83% across 350 cases over 7 to 30 days, tracked by the community at Margin Lab. Clawdbot, I couldn't find a single published coding benchmark figure for it, not one, and that's a real gap. Claude Code takes this one, and it's not close. I kind of figured Clawdbot would have at least some community-run test, anything, but there's just nothing published on coding accuracy. So Claude Code has hard numbers, Clawdbot doesn't, and that ties the score at 1 apiece. Test 3. Speed. A solo dev running a refactor across a large codebase on a Friday afternoon needs that loop to be fast, because every extra minute the agent spends waiting on tokens is a minute you're watching a spinner instead of shipping, and speed directly changes how many iterations you can run in a session. I looked at what both sides actually document here, and the gap is pretty clear. Claude Code has a vendor-documented fast mode that runs up to 2.5 times faster on Opus 5 and 4.8 at $10 or $50 per million output tokens, depending on the model, while Clawdbot's speed improvements are community-reported things like prompt caching and session pruning, but there's no measured figure from the vendor side at all. Claude Code takes speed, and the reason is straightforward. A documented 2.5 times faster mode beats community optimization tips with no measured number behind them. There's no vendor claim at all from Clawdbot on this one, so Claude Code goes up 2 to 1. Alright, so we've got context limits and deployment still ahead, and those two tests are where Clawdbot's free self-hosted model either makes a real case for itself or falls apart, because the deployment test in particular is the one that decides whether the tool you pick can actually fit your stack, so don't bail now. Test 4. Context and output limits. Here's a concrete failure mode you want to avoid. Your mid-session. The agent is halfway through a complex refactor across multiple files, and it starts hallucinating, or dropping earlier context because the session overflowed without warning, which means a broken output you now have to manually audit and fix. Claude Code has clear, published numbers on this. 200,000 tokens on all paid plans, 500,000 on Enterprise, and a 5-hour rolling usage window with specific caps per tier. About 44,000 tokens on Pro, 88,000 on Max 5x, 220,000 on Max 20x. Clawdbot, I couldn't find a published context size anywhere, and community reports flag overflow errors if you don't manually prune sessions. Claude Code takes context limits because managed and documented beats manual session pruning with no published ceiling. There's no reliable community consensus number to point at for Clawdbot either, so that puts Claude Code up 3-1 with Clawdbot, running out of tests to close the gap. Test 5, Deployment and Modality. This one's a little different from the others because the objection I hear a lot is that Clawdbot runs everywhere and does everything, so why pay for Claude Code at all? Clawdbot has 565 plus skills, runs on Docker and Raspberry Pi, and lives inside WhatsApp, Telegram, and Discord, which sounds like a lot. I looked at what each tool actually does in practice. Claude Code is terminal first with deep IDE reach into VS Code, JetBrains, GitHub, and GitLab, plus iOS and Android, while Clawdbot is a chat app hub with broad system access and those 565 skills, and both run on Mac, Windows, and Linux. The real difference I found is security. Clawdbot requires broad system access and community reports flag plain text credential storage locally, which is a genuine concern for anyone on a team. Okay, so before I call this one, I want to be straight with you. These two tools aren't really doing the same job here. Claude Code is a coding agent. Clawdbot is a general-purpose automation bot that lives in your chat apps, and comparing their deployment is kind of like comparing a scalpel to a Swiss Army knife, so the right answer depends entirely on what you're actually trying to do. This one's a tie. Both tools cover the major platforms and both have real integration depth, just in completely different directions, so the final score is Claude Code 3, Clawdbot 1, 1 tied. So here's where Claude Code clearly beats Clawdbot. 84% on SWE Bench Pro with Opus 5.0, a hard, verifiable coding score. Clawdbot can't match. Pricing that runs $17 to $20 a month on Pro and caps at $200 on Max 20x, with clear token limits and no surprise bills. A managed 200,000 token context window, and a terminal native workflow with GitHub, GitLab, VS Code, and JetBrains all built in. And here's where Clawdbot clearly beats Claude Code. Free MIT software, 0 license fee, you only pay API costs. It runs on Docker and Raspberry Pi for always-on self-hosted automation. 565 plus skills with native chat app integrations across WhatsApp, Telegram, and Discord. And no hard usage ceiling if you want to push API spend without a monthly cap getting in your way. So here's the decision rule. If you need a coding agent with a verified 84% benchmark score and predictable costs that cap at $200 a month, get Claude Code. If you want a free, self-hosted automation bot for chat apps and general system tasks, and you're comfortable managing API spend with no ceiling, Clawdbot is worth the tinkering. It really comes down to one thing: coding agent or automation bot. So pick the right tool for the right job. And if you want to go deeper on the free agent side of this, I've got a full breakdown called OpenClaw versus Claude Code, where I test the open source version head-to-head on actual coding tasks. And that one's worth watching if the Clawdbot cost flexibility we talked about today caught your attention, because the free stack picture gets a lot more interesting there.